You don't control people, you control your response. This single principle, if truly understood and practiced, can transform your entire emotional life. It's simple, but not easy. Most of us live with an invisible contract that says, if I treat people with respect, they should treat me the same way. If I explain myself clearly, they should understand. If I show up with kindness, they should respond with grace. And when they don't, when they interrupt, criticize, misunderstand, or ignore us, we feel betrayed, disrespected, angry, hurt, as if their behavior somehow dictates our value or determines our peace. But here's the truth. No one owes you the version of themselves you expect. People will be who they are. Some will be rude, some will be messy, some will be emotionally unavailable, some will be passive-aggressive. And the more you try to manage them, fix them, change them, or control how they behave, the more frustrated, exhausted, and reactive you become. So let's flip this idea on its head. What if your peace had nothing to do with what other people say or do? What if your emotional state wasn't dependent on their tone, their choices, or their mood? That's not just some feel-good philosophy. That's the real definition of personal power. You see, when someone bothers you, what's really happening? You're allowing their behavior to access your nervous system. You've handed over your emotional remote control and said, here, you get to decide whether I feel calm or chaotic today. And most of the time, we do this unconsciously. We're triggered before we even realize it. But that doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you're untrained. And just like any skill, emotional regulation can be learned, practiced, mastered. Let's take an example. Someone cuts in line in front of you. It's annoying. Your mind starts racing. How dare they? Don't they see me? People have no respect these days. And now you're tense, angry. Your day is off track. Not because of what they did, but because of what you told yourself about what they did. That's the key. It's not their action. It's your interpretation of it. Maybe they're just thoughtless. Maybe they're in a rush for a medical emergency. Maybe they didn't even notice you. But even if they were selfish, so what? Do you really want to spend your energy fuming over a stranger's behavior? Do you really want to let that moment decide how you feel for the next hour? Now, apply that to deeper relationships. A coworker throws you under the bus in a meeting. A friend forgets your birthday. Your partner says something cold in the middle of a fight. You can't always stop people from disappointing you, but you can absolutely choose how you process the moment. You pause. You breathe. You acknowledge the reaction in your body. And then you ask, is this about me or is this about them? Do I want to react from habit or respond from clarity? This doesn't mean you stay silent. This doesn't mean you become passive or a pushover. It means you don't hand over your emotional dignity for the sake of a temporary reaction. You don't lose yourself in someone else's dysfunction. You learn how to maintain your center, even when everything around you is trying to pull you out of it. That's what it means to own your response. It's recognizing that the space between what happens and what you do next, that space is your power. And the more you train yourself to use it, the stronger you get. So, how do you start? First, build awareness. The next time someone upsets you, pause before reacting. Name what you're feeling. Not just I'm mad, but something deeper. I feel dismissed, or I feel unseen. That gives you clarity. Second, take responsibility. Not for what they did, but for what you're going to do next. This is your life. You get to decide how much energy you give to any situation. Third, practice boundaries. Controlling your response doesn't mean tolerating toxic behavior. It means you can calmly say, this doesn't work for me, and walk away without emotional chaos. It means protecting your peace, without making it a performance. And fourth, detach from outcomes. You're not here to manage everyone else's emotions. You're here to manage yours. Some people won't change. Some won't apologize. Some won't understand. Let them be who they are, and let you be who you are. Steady, strong, emotionally grounded. Because the moment you stop expecting people to behave the way you want, you stop giving them power over you. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop carrying the weight of other people's choices, and instead you become anchored, not in control of everything around you, but in control of the one thing that truly matters, yourself. That's emotional freedom. And it begins the moment you stop saying, "They made me angry," and start saying, "I decided to stay calm." That's when everything changes. Anger is a signal, not a solution. That idea flips the way we've been conditioned to think about emotional outbursts. Most people treat anger like a weapon, something to use to defend themselves, to assert dominance, to get attention, to make someone feel what they felt. We explode, we shut down, we lash out, all because something inside of us says, "This is wrong, fix it, fight it, yell at it." But the truth is, anger in itself solves nothing. It alerts you, it doesn't heal you. And when you confuse that signal for a solution, you end up stuck in patterns that sabotage your peace and your power. Think of anger like a smoke alarm. When it goes off, it doesn't put out the fire, it just tells you something's burning. It's up to you to investigate. You can get angry at the alarm, you can cover your ears, you can even take the batteries out and pretend it's not happening, but the fire's still there, quietly spreading. That's what happens emotionally when we ignore the signal and react from the surface. We don't get curious, we don't slow down, we just react. And that reaction often leads to damage. Broken relationships, regretted words, missed opportunities for real growth. What if instead of jumping into reaction mode, you stopped and asked, "What is this anger trying to show me?" Because every time you're triggered, there's something deeper underneath. And when you treat anger as an invitation to understand rather than a command to act, your life starts changing fast. Let's break it down. You feel angry when your boundaries are crossed, when your needs aren't met, when your values are challenged, when you feel powerless, unheard, betrayed, dismissed, disrespected. Anger is how your body and mind alert you to a disconnect. But here's the key. That disconnect is usually internal. Someone ignores your idea in a meeting. You feel invisible. You lash out, not because they ignored you, but because you're already battling a fear of not being good enough. Your partner forgets something important. You explode, not because of the moment, but because you've been carrying an old wound that says, "People don't show up for me." Anger shows up loud, but the real pain is quiet. And if you only listen to the loud part, you miss. This is where emotional maturity kicks in. Mature people don't suppress anger. They decode it. They don't numb it. They notice it. They ask, "Why does this matter so much to me?" And when you start doing that, anger becomes your ally, not your enemy. It points you to what needs attention, what needs healing, what needs boundaries, what needs a voice. It becomes a feedback system, not a failure. Now, let's be clear. Anger isn't inherently bad. It's human. It's useful. It's part of your emotional toolkit for survival. Anger protects. It energizes. It drives change. Every great movement in history was sparked by some form of righteous anger. But what made it powerful wasn't the emotion alone. It was the discipline behind it. The choice to channel it, not detonate with it. That's what most people miss. They let anger take the wheel. But anger was never meant to drive. It was meant to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, something's off. You need to look deeper." It's your job to take that cue and respond with wisdom, not impulse. So how do you do that in real time? The moment you feel that internal fire, you pause. You don't suppress it and you don't let it explode. You name it. You say, I feel angry because, and you fill in the blank. Not just the surface level trigger, but the deeper layer. I feel angry because I don't feel respected, because I feel dismissed, because I'm scared I'm not being heard. And now, instead of reacting from fire, you're responding from clarity. That clarity is everything. It gives you access to choice. You can speak up without yelling. You can walk away without slamming doors. You can express how you feel without attacking. That's what emotional strength looks like. Not the absence of anger, but the presence of discipline with it. Because let's be honest, anyone can lose their temper, anyone can rage. That's not hard. What's hard is choosing to stay aware. Choosing to get underneath the anger and ask, what's the root? Instead of lashing out at the leaf. That's growth. That's self-leadership. And if you really want peace, lasting, grounded, internal peace, you need to make anger your teacher. You need to sit with it long enough to understand it. Then decide how you want to act in alignment with who you are, not just in reaction to what happened. Anger will knock at your door many times, sometimes gently, sometimes loud, but every time it's saying, look within, don't explode, evolve. So the next time you feel anger rise, stop, breathe, listen, let it speak. Then ask yourself, do I want to fuel this or understand it? Because that's where your power lives. Not in the fire, but in the focus. Not in reacting to the signal, but in rising with it towards something stronger, deeper, and far more impactful than a momentary outburst. That's how you stop being bothered. That's how you stop being controlled by others. That's how you become unshakable, by turning the signal into self-mastery. So here's what it all comes down to. You will feel anger. You will be triggered. People will say things that hurt, act in ways that disappoint, cross lines you never thought they would. But none of that gets to decide who you are unless you let it. Anger is not your enemy. It's your signal. It's your internal alarm saying, pay attention, not to destroy, not to react, but to understand, to get clear on what you value, what you need, and what you're ready to change within yourself. The most powerful person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest. It's the one who understands their emotions, owns their response, and chooses intention over impulse. So the next time anger knocks, don't slam the door. Don't set the room on fire. Open it. Ask why it's here. Learn from it. And then lead with strength, not reaction. Because when you stop letting other people control your peace and you start treating anger as the teacher it is, that's when you become untouchable. Thank you.